Morning, everybody.
Hello.
We just had major technical difficulty. And this might potentially be a PG-13 episode of Live with Your Lobbyists.
We might take turns holding.
Yeah, hold on. Let me see if I can get this fixed. Bear with us. I'm trying to not make anybody dizzy. I'm going to try one more time.
Almost there.
Try one more time.
At least this one will be interesting.
Got a lot of cool stuff to talk about today. So sorry that we didn't mean to go live immediately as our phone busted off the top of the tripod. So this is real life with some amateur videographers. Okay. All right. I think we're in business. Sorry. This is the blooper reel. If you want to come back in like 1 minute, promise we'll be ready to go. Okay, we'll try that.
All right.
Okay, welcome.
Let's get started.
That's a wonderful sentiment for this point in the legislature.
Yes,
That's
yes.
how we feel. Our
Things are winding
phone
down.
is constantly falling off the tripod.
Oh, nice to hear from you too, Dawn. Hope you're having a fabulous Friday.
So anyway, legislative session. We have a few updates for you today, a couple of which Liv's going to lead off with.
Yeah, so at this point in the session, we aren't seeing a whole lot of new legislation because most of those transmittal deadlines have come and gone. So the only new bills that we're really seeing are bills that have to do with what we're going to do in the interim. The interim is the span of months in between sessions when legislators meet in interim committees and discuss issues that either didn't get resolved during the legislative session or issues that have come about afterwards that they need to resolve in the upcoming session. So one topic of discussion that both the House and Senate taxation committees have been discussing throughout the entire session is we have a changing economy here in Montana, and our tax structure might not accurately reflect what our new economy looks like. We've got changing demographics, increasing population, a lot of our commerce is happening online, and we aren't entirely capturing all of those tax dollars. And our membership sees that in the sense that our rural economies are shrinking and our property tax burden is only increasing. So we supported a study that Representative Redfield introduced, it's HJ 35, that requests an interim study on Montana's local and state tax structure. So what this bill would do, it would have the Revenue and Transportation Interim Committee create a subcommittee composed of non-legislators, composed of local county commissioners, of tax experts to really discuss this topic on a much broader, more in-depth scale. So we supported that, and we're hoping that that study will result in us having a conversation on how to make our tax structure more equitable and how we can do that in the next upcoming session. So that bill passed out of House taxation, and I believe it's going to be heard on the House floor today. So there's one new bill for you.
The second new piece of legislation that we participated in this week was not new to the legislature, was just new to Farm Bureau. We testified in support of House Bill 550 in the Senate Highway and Transportation Committee. And this bill is being carried by Representative Alan Redfield, and what he's seeking to do is to establish a procedure for private landowners who do not want a road listed on the county's gas tax maps to have a more established set of protocol to follow when working with their county governments to remove that road. So how that works is each county in the state receives gas tax allocation from Montana Department of Transportation. That gas tax allocation is used for the maintenance and the repair as well as building new roads within that county. And counties receive allocation based on the number of public roads that they submit on gas tax maps to the department. And there have been instances where roads have been listed on gas tax maps as what would otherwise be considered a public road that are not necessarily public roads. And so landowners go to their county commission, they ask to have that road removed. They can go through the procedure to remove the road from that map. and then the next year the road shows up on the map again. Now, this is really important to understand that these are roads that might be listed on the county's gas tax maps, but the county does not maintain them. They don't repair anything like that. So this bill would establish a procedure for those landowners to more permanently remove the road, would not prevent the road from being added back to the gas tax maps at a future point in time, but just allows the landowners a little more recourse for ensuring that their road is not appearing on gas tax maps. This is helpful for a couple reasons. First, it streamlines the process with the Department of Transportation because counties will submit maps. The department will inspect those maps. They will evaluate them. Oftentimes that results in a boots on the ground inspection of these roads in various counties. And then they will trade back and forth with the counties several different times to determine if they have accurately listed what roads they should receive gas tax allocation for. Secondarily, a common issue, or a not so common issue, but one that is becoming more common that is arising, is that people are able to access those gas tax maps from county websites or by asking the county commission. And if they see a road on there, they deem it as open to the public, which is not necessarily true. And in fact, the representative from the Department of Transportation stood up in that hearing and said that those maps are not intended to denote public access and should not be used for that reason. Or solely for that reason. And so that's another reason why some landowners want specific roads taken off of those gas tax roads, because it sends a confusing message to people who might inadvertently think that if a road is on that map, it's a public road. So House Bill 55 just adds a few simple provisions to the definition of a public road and says that it must be a public road as deemed by the governing body in that county commissioners, and that a landowner can petition the county to have the road removed, and that the county commission must of course approve the removal. And then it also denotes that roads that have been abandoned or vacated are not public roads and cannot be considered for gas tax allocation. And secondly, that roads that are not maintained or repaired by a county government using gas tax dollars cannot be considered automatically a public road on the gas tax allocation maps. So we supported that one to hopefully help streamline that process and provide a little bit more of a clearer picture about what those maps are intended to be used for and what they are not. So that was in the Senate Highways and Transportation Committee earlier this week.
Yeah, so one bill that we worked on this morning, actually, right before coming back to the House to do our live, was House Bill 52. And we had a member testify. Jill Street came up, and this bill, it extends the sunset for quite a few economic development programs. One of those programs that our members have both benefited from and strongly support is the Growth Through Agriculture program. And this program seeks to diversify agriculture and provide grants and loans to businesses that give an application to diversify, expand, or create a new business that would promote agriculture here in the state of Montana. So we were really happy to see a long line of proponents. Not one opponent came to testify on House Bill 52. It's moving through the process, was heard in Senate Business and Labor this morning, and will likely have a Senate Finance and Claims hearing next week. So another bill moving through the process.
Yeah, and so we are really kind of dwindling in bill numbers when it comes to things that still need a second hearing or are working their way through the process. Both the House and Senate are working really hard when it comes to floor session and committee hearings to move bills through the process. I know the Senate has another big board in front of them today. And in fact, the House met until 11 p.m. last Friday night, working through second and third reading on bills. So they're really into the sausage making of the legislature, if you will. And there is a lot of talk that we might get out of here early, which we're always big fans of, but we also operate under a believe it when we see it mentality. So there is some speculation that they're working hard to try to finish things up earlier, and there's still a few large pieces of the puzzle hanging out there. House Bill 2 is nearing the end of the process, getting across the Senate floor, and also still waiting to fit the discussion on Medicaid expansion and how that will fit into the overall legislative picture are kind of two of the remaining large puzzle pieces. So we are just busy tying up loose ends with other bills, because as early as this week, we heard sine die motions on the floor. So there's definitely a sentiment among some legislators that it's time to go home. And while we can't disagree, there are still bills we want passed. So.
One very important bill that we are trying to get past the Senate floor today is House Bill 286. This is a bill that you have heard us discuss quite a lot. It's Representative Redfield's bill. He's from the Livingston area. And this bill clarifies that the state cannot claim partial ownership of your water right unless a court of competent jurisdiction has said that you can, or unless the state has accompanied a deed with that where that water right is located. So this all came about, a lot of you already know this, when DNRC started issuing letters to landowners that lease state trust land. Landowners that have been diverting water that was located on a spring or a well on their private land, diverting water onto their state trust land. DNRC has then sent out a letter claiming partial ownership of that water right that's located on private land. So this is very much a no-no, and we see it kind of as a taking, and this bill is very, very important to clarify that in statute that they aren't allowed to do that. So that bill came out of Senate Natural Resources earlier this week. We're very thankful that Senator Wellborn, the chair of that committee, got that through, and it will be on the floor today for second reading. And right after we're done with this live, we'll head up there and start grabbing legislators and make sure we get a great bipartisan vote like we did in the House. So stay tuned, because we expect that that bill will come out of the Senate, and at that point we will really be trying to push correspondence to the second floor to assure that that bill becomes law. So.
And if you're just joining us, please let us know if you've got any questions. Like we said, there's not a lot of new things on the docket. We're really just monitoring the progress of a lot of bills through the process. So if there's a bill we haven't talked about and you'd like to know where it's at, just shoot us a comment and we'd love to answer it. Also up this afternoon in Senate Natural Resources is House Bill 411. This is again dealing with the funding source for the Aquatic Invasive Species Management Program in the state. And this is essentially the last remaining vessel, pun, that was a good pun, huh? Pun intended. This is the last remaining piece of legislation that has a funding component in it for the Aquatic Invasive Species Program. There were a couple different bills earlier in the legislature. One came out of the Environmental Quality Council Interim Committee, and then there was another bill that we can't see half of Liv.
Oh, that's okay. I'm not talking now.
Oh. Yeah, I'm just kidding. You should have been here earlier, Alina. We really had a rough start, so go back and watch the beginning, everyone. Also, there was a second there was a second piece of legislation that was considered the governor's bill. It was more of the funding arrangement that Governor Bullock was seeking to fund that program. Both of those bills have since essentially gone away. And we have come to a kind of a compromise with House Bill 411. And they have taken both parts of the funding from each of those original pieces of legislation and married them together in one bill. So we will be supporting this funding mechanism this afternoon, and we'll keep you posted as that works its way through the process as well. It has quite a bit of work to do here pretty soon, because again, we are getting down there when it comes to the last remaining transmittal deadlines. So I predict this particular bill is going to move through the process pretty quickly.
Yeah. Well,
anything else?
Yeah.
This has been like a chronicle of follies this morning on on Facebook Live. Sorry, everybody. If you've been with us since the beginning, thank you so much for your patience.
Yes.
If you have any, sorry, there was a
We
finger
do
there.
check back afterwards, so if you have a question, yes, go back for the full episode, Alina. It's great. You might get some wonderful commentary from Chelsea.
Yeah, like I said, it might be PG-13 or so-ish. I don't know.
But if you do have questions, let us know. We will check back on this video throughout the week to ensure that those get answered.
Yes. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll talk to you again next week.
Bye, guys.
Bye.